Hello, valued audience. Welcome to the Microsoft 365 Copilot for Wine Finance webinar. I hope that you're going to be enjoying it. Okay. So yes, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to whenever you might be geographically located in the world. I'm your host, Bekim Daouti, and I'm going to be, like I said, presenting the Microsoft 365 Copilot utilization or leverage in the finance sector or industry. Yes, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to be very much running this webinar from a perspective of the theory concepts, okay, to get to know some of the very important information or essential information from the Microsoft 365 Copilot. Initially, the Copilot itself, and then very much in terms of utilizing it accordingly within the finance sector. And then, yes, going into some of the users cases, which very much related to the finance. Okay. And I hope that you're going to be very much enjoying the webinar. And of course, as such, then very much be a unique experience of yours. Okay, moving on forward, like I said, okay, my webinar or my presentation is actually called Enhancing the Financial Operations with the Microsoft 365 Copilot, or better saying, transforming the financial processes with innovative tools, the tools which are very much actually AI powered, such as the case of the Copilot. Okay, let's have a look at the agenda. Okay, when it comes to the agenda, like I said, we're going to be very much getting to know initially the Microsoft 365 Copilot. What is the Microsoft 365 Copilot? Okay, and then getting into the real discussion, real topics such as the applications in the financial management. Okay, more in that particular regard, we're going to be very much discussing the data analysis and insights, and then obviously to then be able to enhance the compliance and security as well. Okay. Yes, we will take some time to go over some of the case studies and the real world applications as well in order to make this particular webinar more interesting and of course more effective. Okay, introduction to the Microsoft 365 Copilot. Okay, so yes, getting to know what is the Copilot. Well, the initial understanding around the Copilot that this is a Microsoft product is considered to be AI model based on the GPT categorization of the artificial intelligence models. Now, GPT stands for the generative pre-trained transformers. Usually, this sort of the artificial intelligence models is actually task-oriented. Okay, it's using large language models, okay, which is representing a big data or vast knowledge base, which actually is being used in order to train these particular AI models. Other than that, is using the NLP, the natural language processing as well, which of course is acting as a middleware or as a bridge in order to be able to establish the interaction with the, in this case, the Copilot, or generally speaking, with the GPT AI models. Usually this type of the AI models, okay, are going to be very much providing the responses in the form of a text, in the form of a, audio, in the form of a video, in the form of images, in the form of a code as well. Okay, so if you are into the programming, then definitely you're going to be to generate the code, to test the code, to debug the code, to deploy the code as well. If you are in terms of, let's say, working within a certain department within the organization, say within the HR, then you can use the very much this type of AI model actually in order to be able to generate documents, draft documents, summarize documents from the perspective of, let's say, HR related very much to the jobs, okay, to the, of course, to the communication with the employees, and etc. The same would apply actually within the other departments. So that was the general perspective. But when we go into the details, then obviously, like I said right at the beginning when I was introducing this section, that the Microsoft 365 Copilot is a product of the Microsoft. Okay, it's actually very much into that type of the category of the GPT AI models. And of course, it is part of the Microsoft 365. That's why the name is actually coming very much. So the apps and services of the Microsoft 365 are being powered by the Copilot. Okay, but currently we are between 200 to 300 apps and services. But from that particular perspective, it doesn't mean that all of the apps and services are actually being equipped or powered with a Copilot. No, but the Office 365 and of course some of the well-known applications and services of the Microsoft 365 are actually equipped with the Copilot. But this is not very much stopping the Microsoft to move further and of course then bring over more of a Copilot to the certain apps and services on the Microsoft 365 as well. In similar fashion as we do have in the Copilot for the Microsoft 365, we do have in the Copilot for the Dynamics 365 and of course the Azure portal as well. So altogether, as we know, Microsoft 365 and the Dynamics 365 and the Azure portal are actually constituting the Azure Cloud Computing environment. Okay, we did mention that it's part of the Office 365, so that tells that the Microsoft 365 is actually seamlessly integrated across various applications. So from that perspective, we have the Copilot in Word, we have it in Excel, we have it in the PowerPoint, we have it in Outlook. Then outside of the Office 365, we have it in Microsoft Teams, we have it on the whiteboard, we have it in the planner, we have actually on the Loop, we have it on the Power Platform as well, including the Power BI as well. Okay, so yes, this is how the Copilot is actually being integrated into the Microsoft 365 apps and services. Another interesting perspective is that it is very much learning from the user behavior. Okay, although we need to mention the fact that Microsoft is not using the data of the organization in order to train the Copilot. No, that's pretty much we're actually secure in that regard. Okay, and also like the Copilot, in order to reference the data of organization, obviously OneDrive and SharePoint are going to be used as the repository. Okay, so yes, pretty much that's the situational requirements that we need to have actually the data organization be actually stored within the OneDrive and of course the SharePoint as well. Okay, enhanced productivity. Yes, we should be thinking of the Copilot as a productivity tool. It was actually designed with the productivity in mind. Okay, so like the name indicates, the Copilot, okay, usually when we get on plane, okay, and then fly from one city to another city, from one country to another country, or continent to another continent, obviously we then very much get to know that there's a pilot in that particular plane, okay? But next to him or her, obviously there's a co-pilot. So then this analogy or this example should pretty much then very much help us establish the understanding that we are going to be, we in the role of a user, we're going to be the pilot, okay? Which is going to be driving forward this productivity, okay? But then next to us, we have the co-pilot, and obviously then we can benefit from utilizing accordingly the co-pilot in order to be able to increase the productivity. What's so special with productivity within the organization? Well, the specialty in regard to the productivity, or that essential part of the productivity within the organization, is that obviously each organization out there, startup, small, mid-sized enterprise, is attaining what? Actually to gain that competitive advantage on the market that they are operating in order to become the leader. This aim of striving to become a leader in a certain segment of the industry very much is actually requiring actually some big efforts. And among the big efforts, apart from the strategy and etc., productivity matters a lot, because productivity is then the key driver to have the accurate information. And having the accurate information means that we have the integrity on top of the information within the organization. And obviously we live in that period of a time when the information within the organization is considered to be the most important asset. Okay, and the higher the value of the information, the higher the value of the organization. And then all these particular ingredients are very much then creating those particular potential or capabilities for that particular organization to strive becoming a leader on the market that is operating. So to sum up this particular slide over here, then obviously the Microsoft 365 Copilot is bringing over to each and a particular organization the features and capabilities in order to drive forward the success story. Key features and functionalities, like I said, natural language processing is actually in between the user and, of course, Copilot. It helps the Copilot and the user to establish the interaction, how we interact it. When we approach certain database, let's say the SQL database, or generally speaking, relation database management systems, or the non-relation database management systems, we need to know the exact language in order to be able to interact with that particular database. For instance, like run queries, okay? When we interact with the Copilot, there's no need for us to actually learn additional language so we can then interact it. No. Natural language processing, like I said, is a bridge between or enables the communication of humans with AI models, in this case, the Copilot. And then obviously in the native language, we then obviously going to be entering those prompts, okay? So pretty much this then simplifies and eases a lot the interactivity between the human and of course the Copilot as well. Yes, interacting with the Copilot, obviously dependable upon the segment of the industry that we're going to be leveraging it accordingly. But let's say that in finance, okay? Let's say that I want to run some sort of a data analysis within the Microsoft Excel. When I'm going into that particular workbook, and then of course looking into one particular table, and then I want them to create a chart from it, okay? And then I want to do some sort of a data analysis. I want to add some sort of a computation calculations by bringing over the functions. I will receive the intelligent suggestions as well and recommendations. So continuously and then on ongoing basis, while I'm interacting with the Copilot, Copilot will actually then provide suggestions which are going to be very much related to the task that I'm performing. Because like I said, mostly this type or this category of the AI models are task oriented. Okay, moving on forward. Okay, integration with the Microsoft 365 suite. Yes, like I said, we have the Microsoft 365 Copilot within the Microsoft 365 apps and services, primarily within the Office 365, and then of course in some of the well-known apps and services of the Microsoft 365. Okay, so yes, we can use it accordingly within the Office 365, which very much includes the Word, the Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook. We can use it in Teams as well. Quite interesting, recently we have been provided the Copilot chat as well. Okay, and to note over here that when it comes to the Copilot chat can actually go beyond the Microsoft Teams. Okay, so if we reference to the Copilot for the Teams, then obviously the Copilot for the Teams is going to be very much looking into the communication channels, okay, Teams channels, into the meetings, okay, and then obviously very much deal with the data which was somehow utilized by the Microsoft Teams. But the Copilot chat, it actually goes beyond the Teams, okay? Like it will utilize the Microsoft Graph, okay, which of course is standing as a platform in order to provide provide that integration from the perspective of the communication, so then the Copilot then can very much retrieve the data from the other apps and services of Microsoft 365. So for instance, like if I want to actually very much use the Copilot chat, and then of course run some summary of my emails, of my meetings, of my chats, then definitely I need to use the Copilot chat. But if I do the same prompt, enter into the Copilot for Teams, then obviously this particular, in this case, the Copilot for Teams cannot go beyond the Teams in order to retrieve the emails, for instance, the summary of the emails from the Outlook. Regardless, we have all that sort of a flexibility, which of course it is helping us to establish the so-called collaboration. Okay, collaboration between the teams, but of course collaboration from the perspective of a user along with the Copilot. Okay, and then yes, definitely this is considered to be a boost of the productivity. But what matters is very important. It's all about the prompt. Okay. We might go into some sort of a reporting on the internet that the users are very much not complaining, but of course might actually very much telling a story that obviously recently they're actually using an AI model, but somehow they are not very much actually going into the productivity. Well, it's not the blaming on that particular AI model. It's just about the blaming on the user itself. Okay, why? Let me just give you one particular example in that regard. Okay, so it is actually number one, the requirement to get to know the technology. Okay, now even this particular webinar, it has a purpose. Okay, it has a purpose. Which particular purpose? Get to know the technology. In this case, get to know the AI model called Microsoft 365 Copilot. But then how can I use the Microsoft 365 Copilot accordingly for the finance industry or finance sector? Okay, so that's the very purpose. By getting to know the technology, getting to know the features and capabilities. Okay, then we're going to be very much aligning the mindset with that particular technology. By being able to align the mindset, that means that we're going to be very much building the confidence and the trust that that tooling in front of me, that's very much capable of assisting me in order to move forward with my daily routine, with my daily task. Okay, and then only in this particular format we can then indeed boost the productivity. Okay, because we're going to be establishing the confidence, which confidence will lead me to trust that Copilot can help me to move forward. Okay, and then if all of us within a certain organization actually have this sort of the attitude and embrace this sort of the attitude, definitely then the productivity is going to be boosted. And then obviously that particular organization is just actually opening the pages of the success story. Okay, moving on forward, applications in financial management. Okay, let's have a look over here. Automating the financial processes. Yes, when it comes to the automating financial processes, definitely that can lead to some significant efficiency gains. So the idea is all about the efficiency, but of course at the same time effectiveness as well. How then we can be effective and efficient? Well, it's all about the time management. Okay, so reducing the time spent on a certain routine task. Okay, especially for instance from the perspective of the finance, such as the finance teams can pretty much go and redirect their efforts towards some strategic initiatives, which of course are going to be driving the growth forward. Then in that particular consideration, we can then claim that obviously we have efficiency, we have the productivity at the level of the efficiency over here. And then with it, pretty much we're actually then boosting this sort of the efficiency. Okay, focusing more on the strategy. Okay, so that is very much meaning that a less time on the manual task and more of the automation. So and the Copilot 365, the Microsoft 365 Copilot, it has this sort of a capability, okay? So indeed, we can then automate certain routines from a daily task, which can be overseen and can be performed by the Copilot, and that is very much going to be helping them in order to move forward with a focus on the strategy. What about the decision-making enhancements? Yes, of course. By embracing the automation, okay, on our routine financial tasks, then definitely that we're going to be then very much opening the way for the decision-making capabilities, okay, which in that case is going to be very much providing some timely and accurate financial data to the stakeholders in particular. Okay, how we can improve the accuracy in the financial reporting? Well, I did mention from the general perspective that when I was very much discussing in regard to the value of the information. Okay, what matters is the accuracy. Okay, we might have a database. Okay, but if the database is very much populated or depopulated with what actually is overpopulated with the duplicated data, that tells us we don't have an integrity on top of the data, but also like we don't have the higher ratio of the accuracy. Okay, so the intention is to have the accuracy. So improving the accuracy in the financial reporting, obviously that is considered to be very important. Okay, why? Because we want to have some reliable outcomes. And if we minimize the human errors, okay, and in that regard, being able to leverage according to the Microsoft 365 Copilot in order to increase the accuracy at the level of the financial reporting, then that is going to be very much leading to some sort of a reliable outcomes. How we can ensure the data consistency? Yes, yet again, we can ensure the data consistencies by very much well going into that very process of leveraging yet again the Microsoft 365 Copilot in order to enhance the overall quality of the financial reports. Okay, so enhancing the overall accuracy, that is going to be very much helping to ensure the data consistency. And finally, the automated checks. Yes, the automated checks is going to be very much integrated into the Microsoft 365 Copilot. And then with it, be able to then streamline the financial reporting process and ensuring some precision in the data entry as well. Okay, moving on forward, and then very much looking into the streamlining the budgeting and forecasting. Yes, when it comes to the streamlining budgeting and forecasting, we can look at it from the various perspective. We can look at it from the data-driven insights. Okay, usually within the data-driven insights, we can benefit from yet again leveraging accordingly the Microsoft 365 Copilot, which will provide the valuable data-driven insights, which will enhance the accuracy on budgeting and forecasting efforts. Additionally, we can then establish the automation of the data collection. Obviously, this is going to be in itself reducing the manual efforts, and then at the same time helping financial teams to focus on the analysis and strategy. But also we can look at it from the perspective of enhanced forecast accuracy as well. In that regard, teams can create more accurate and more reliable financial forecasts as well. Okay, further in this particular discussion, we will be looking now into the data analysis and insights, how we can benefit from using the Microsoft 365 in order to do what? In order to get into the data analysis and obviously get into that very piece of the information, such as the insights, valuable insights, which will lead us to some sort of the informed decisions, or as we say traditionally, the right decision at the right time, at the right place for the right particular item or activity, finance activity. Okay, so advanced data analytics capabilities. Of course, when we look into the advanced data analytics capabilities, we can take into consideration the powerful data analytics tools. Okay, so in this regard, Microsoft 365 is going to be providing some advanced data analytics tools. And this in itself is going to be helping the users in order to be able to perform very complex analysis efficiently and of course effectively as well. Then we have the rapid insight generation, which will enable the users in order to be staying informed in a fast-paced environment. Definitely, we live in the 21st century, which we actually, when we look at it from a perspective of how we conduct the business operations, definitely we encounter a high dynamic rate of it. Adaptation to financial changes, yes, the Microsoft 365 Copilot indeed is helping to adapt to the rapidly changing financial landscape, and at the same time then making the informed decisions within the given segment, in this case within the finance. What about the predictive insights and decision making? Yes, the idea is usually when we go and then conduct the data analysis, okay, there might be a case that we're going to be looking to some sort of a past trends, okay? Why? Because we want to very much go into the knowing of what was actually that particular error, that particular mistake, or whatsoever that was very much causing us to not take a right decision, okay? And then that's the very case. But then when we look at it from the perspective of the predictive insights, okay, or forecast as we call it differently, in order to boost the decision-making process, then definitely we want to drill down the information to the very piece of it, to the very piece of the details of the information in order to get to in order to actually then have actually over here some sort of a forecast or productivity, which of course is going to be very much leading to that right decision, of course, or to that informed decision, to the meaningful informed decision. Okay, so then from that particular perspective, we can then benefit from leveraging the predictive analytics. What that means, what this is going to be significantly enhancing the organization's ability to be able to forecast the financial trends and market dynamics. Then, of course, we have the informed decision making as well. Usually, organizations can make more informed decisions, which are going to be very much aligning to the overall strategy goals. And then, yes, we can benefit from leveraging of the Microsoft 365 Copilot in terms of enhancing further the strategic planning. Okay, so yes, usually organizations can benefit of enhancing their strategic planning efforts and be able to navigate to the uncertainties more effectively. How we can visualize the financial data? Can Microsoft 365 help us in visualizing the financial data? The answer is yes, a big yes. Indeed, the Microsoft 365 can help the teams present the complex financial information in a very clear presentation and of course understandable manner as well. Additionally, the Microsoft 365 Copilot can help the teams to actually create a dynamic charts, which charts then can enhance further the data interpretation, which definitely can lead to some sort of a boosting of a decision-making process. And obviously, the Microsoft 365 Copilot will enable the better insights, and also would enable some quick access to the key financial metrics as well. So from that very understanding, indeed, by being able to leverage accordingly the Microsoft 365 Copilot, we can then indeed benefit from having the dynamic charts and the dashboards, and altogether then be able to enhance the data interpretation further in a more effective and efficient manner. Looking into the enhancing compliance and security. Okay. Yes, all of the work that we're going to be doing by leveraging the Microsoft 365 Copilot, we would be very much interested to ensure that we are actually in compliance with the regulatory. Okay, and then yes, that means that we will be able to use the Microsoft 365 Copilot in order to be able to automate the compliance checks. How we can actually then benefit from ensuring the organization is actually staying aligned with the regulatory requirements efficiently. Then up-to-date records is that Microsoft 365 Copilot will help the organization actually maintaining the up-to-date records. In that order, then the organizations can significantly reduce the risk of the non-compliance. And then obviously then altogether that is going to be very much helping the organization maintaining be aligned actually with the regulatory compliance. Okay, and then also like assessing the risk as well. Okay, and then yes, that altogether then pretty much ensuring that we have the governance in place as well. Okay, so what about the security features in order to be able to protect financial data? And yes, definitely this is actually considered to be one of the most important data within the organization, and definitely would be very much interested to protect it as well. Okay, so when we speak about the Microsoft 365 Copilot from the standpoint of the security, okay, let's just actually take into consideration all of the security controls that the Microsoft is providing within the Azure Cloud Computing environment. Okay, so then all that enterprise grade scale top security from the perspective of the security controls is actually very much being utilized and leveraged accordingly by the Copilot as well. So if we look into the 6 key principles through which Microsoft is ensuring a responsible AI and ethically AI as well, then definitely we'll see that among those 6 key principles, we have the privacy and of course security as well. So indeed, from that very understanding, security features are considered to be a paramount in protecting the financial data. So from that very perspective, obviously what we have as the tools as the components in order to protect the financial data, we have the advanced encryption. Okay, so yes, the Azure, if we're running the premise, the services in the cloud, yes, for sure. Then the Azure is offering the encryption for the data in rest, and of course for the data in transit as well. Okay, then obviously we have the various controls in regard to accessing the data. Okay, so initially we have the identity and access management, which of course very much translates into the Microsoft Entra ID. Okay, but then on top of it, we have the role-based access control. We have the conditional access as well. But of course, we have other ways of controlling the access. Okay, then protecting against the breaches. I did mention actually a lot of the security controls. Okay, Microsoft Defender for Cloud, which obviously is going to be overseeing various operations within the cloud. Okay, and add here the premium security control services such as the Sentinel, which of course are going to be very much providing a very comprehensive protection against the data breaches, at the same time ensuring the integrity of the financial information. Let's not forget that when we speak about the Microsoft Defender for Cloud and also like the Sentinel as well, definitely, obviously we have all these particular security controls powered by the AI as well. On top of all that, we do have the security, Microsoft 365 Security Copilot as well. Okay, auditing the readiness and monitoring. Yes, when it comes to the auditing readiness and monitoring, obviously the Microsoft 365 Copilot is providing the essential monitoring tools that is going to be helping the organization in order to be staying in the audit ready at all times. Then we have the change tracking, okay, which is all about the way or the possibilities of tracking the changes within the documents and the systems in order to ensure some accurate record keeping for the audits. Okay, yes, that is very much goes into the line with the various forms of protecting the data. Okay, one way is by using these sensitive labels, for instance. Okay, and then detailed audit logs as well. Yes, Microsoft 365 Copilot is going to be helping the organization to be able to maintain the detailed logs, which further is going to be simplifying the auditing process and overall making it much easier in order to be able to review and assess the compliance as well. Further in this particular discussion, obviously we're winding down this presentation in order to take it over to some of the hands-on activities, case studies on the real-world applications. Okay, so let's look into some of the case studies. Okay, so artificial intelligence finance use cases. Yes, we can benefit from using the Microsoft 365 Copilot in finance sector, primarily in order to run the overviews and also like be able to establish the key performance indicators as well. Reason for that is that we all are aware that the KPIs are going to be playing an essential role in organizations, okay, especially in the way of providing some sort of a compass through which we then, or the organization would be able to navigate towards a given success or an aimed success. Okay, so then for that very reason, we indeed can benefit from using the Microsoft 365 Copilot in order to run the overviews and of course KPIs as well. Use case by role. Obviously, in this regard, Microsoft 365 can simplify further the tasks, especially for the finance departments, finance offices within the organization, in order to be able to then take on those daily routines. Okay, and then yes, with an aim of automating more and more of such daily routines. And then day in the life, pretty much we're going to be very much discussing some of the very needed steps in order to accomplish certain things by yet again be able to leverage the Microsoft Microsoft 365 Copilot. Okay, so yes, we're going to be giving some of the examples over here. Okay, we are in the finance, and we are very much looking forward to be able to optimize this particular financial operation. Okay, so yes, some of the requirements over here are represented in the form of a step. It would be that obviously we are going to be very much looking forward to automate the workflow. In that regard, we can very much easily use the Copilot and then pretty much address a prompt on the Copilot and ask the Copilot to write a Python script through which we're going to be looking forward to automate some tedious tasks like the data collection. And then further in this particular process, obviously, when we go into the step 2 financial analysis, definitely we can benefit yet again from the Copilot in order to do what? To be able to perform some sort of a complex financial analysis. Then going into the step 3, stay up to date with the news and trends. Like we did mention in that particular discussion earlier, yes, Copilot is going to be helping us a lot in order to run the summaries, which are going to be very much needed in this particular activity. Okay. And then, yes, moving on to the very next step, which is all about gathering some competitive information. Yes, definitely we can run various comparison. Okay, so we can then reference various documents within the organization and then obviously compare product capabilities in order to be able to perform some accurate total cost of ownership analysis for the product pricing update, then be able to communicate the insights. Okay, so as you can see pretty much the flow of this particular information or activities actually is going in this particular routine. So communicating the insights in that regard, Copilot is going to be helping to generate the content such as the report, such as the investment summary, such as the financial briefs, and more as well. And then the due diligence very much prompt the Copilot in order to be able to identify some potential acquisitions, targets in the specific geographies as well. Okay, so as we can see from the from this particular task of attempting to optimize the financial operation, well, it's all about the interaction with the Copilot. And indeed, the very key is at the prompt itself. Okay, like we might know, and definitely we know, that is pretty much the case is that everything matters from the prompt itself. Okay, for that very reason, we need to be very clear, very conscious, very specific, provide as much as details, set the context. Okay, and then that is how we're going to be extracting the best out of the Copilot in a given prompt. What about reconciling the financial data to accelerate some period closing? Yes, very much. The process is going to be starting with generating the formulas in order to have some sort of a clean data. That this then, of course, again, Copilot is going to be very much in this case helping by providing the guidance on how we can then establish these standardized at the level of formatting the data. Reconcile the accounts, definitely the Copilot in this case is going to be helping us a lot, especially at the level of a Microsoft Excel, in order to be able to streamline the reconciliation of the accounts across the customers and of course the suppliers as well. And of course, it goes like that with a review of the discrepancies, generating the report, create the knowledge agent, and of course, then sharing with the team. So yet again, we've seen that in this heavy communication or in this heavy iteration, I'll say, with the Copilot, we would then be in a position to reconcile the financial data to accelerate the period closing. Analyzing the business performance, of course, we can benefit from using again and again the Copilot in the proper way. Okay, we will start to do some work in Excel by generating formulas in order to do some clean data. Then we will move forward, same on that Excel workbook. We will be doing some sort of the analysis at the level of the budget variances. Okay, then further, by looking into the Copilot in Excel and leveraging it accordingly, we can review the discrepancies. Okay, so run the some sort of a summary reports in order to look into some sort of unexpected variances as well. But then obviously we can benefit to interact now. As we can see, the one that I was very much mentioning earlier, the Microsoft Graph, by acting as a unified platform in order to enable the Copilot to interact with the various apps and services of Microsoft 365. In this regard, to the step 4 report findings, we can then very much look forward to then interact with the Copilot in the PowerPoint in order to then accelerate very much the creation of a presentation, which will provide some summary at the level of the key findings from the various analysis summary. And then, yes, yet again, we're going to be communicating with the Copilot, but at some other applications such as the Outlook, in order to be able to distribute the findings or share the findings with the teams or the people within that particular activity. Analyze the cash flow variances. In similar term, we can benefit from using the Copilot at the level of the Excel in order to be able to generate the formulas to clean the data, and then to analyze the cash flow patterns, and then review the cash flow analysis as well. Then we can move into the teams, and then from within the teams, yet again, interact with the Copilot in order to be able to review the team's conversations for some specific questions related to the cash flow. Then we can move into the Microsoft Word, from where we can benefit of using the Copilot in Word in order to generate some pre-meeting reports. And then obviously by the very end, be able to distribute the summary, which yet again, we're going to be referring to the Copilot in Teams in order to be able to share the summaries of the meetings and of course the next steps as well. Intelligence sales forecasting. Yes, yet again, another scenario where we can benefit from the Copilot at the level of the Excel purely, preparing, clean the data, and of course the analyzing the cash flow patterns, then querying the data, moving on to forecasting annual sales, and then moving on to evaluating and adjusting the forecast model if needed. And then obviously, yet again, in Microsoft Excel, by being able to use the Copilot in order to be able to create summaries of the forecast, and of course, be able to share the results with the team as well. Okay, so yes, that was very much some of the scenarios that we've seen it from the real world, that how we can benefit from using the Microsoft 365 Copilot primarily within the Excel, okay, because we use it that one for the data analysis in finance, okay, and of course for the various calculations and computations as well, visualizations in terms of the representation, but then yet again, how we then interact with the others, Copilots at the other level, at the other apps and services of the Microsoft 365, in order to then very much fulfill that particular circle of the task that we have been very much working with. Okay, so implementation strategies. Yes, when it comes to the implementation strategies, which is considered to be a key to some successful integration of the Microsoft 365 Copilot within the organization, obviously we need to then be aware of the fact that which are the teams, which this is very much into that particular process of the user enablement teams, okay? When we have the executives which are going to be taking that particular decisions in order to be able to adopt or take on that particular journey of adopting the Microsoft 365 Copilot within the organization. Then obviously going down the line in this particular process of adopting the Microsoft 365 Copilot within the organization, we're going to be encountering the other teams as well, the early adopters, the champions, the IT team as well, okay? And then all these teams very much are going to be complementing one another in order to ensure that the overall project of adopting the Copilot within the organization is very much actually aligned to the goals and objectives of the organization, and all that translates into the success. Okay, but yes, within this particular adaptation journey of the AI, of the Copilot, definitely training programs. So the early adopters then obviously turned into the champions. These are going to be the people which are going to be very much helping the rest of the peers within the organization in order to getting to learn how to use the tool in the most effective manner, and then at the same time then supporting actually everyone within the organization. And when it comes to the support, definitely that should be actually then provided on the ongoing basis in order to be able to address the challenges and at the same time enhance the user experience with the Microsoft 365 Copilot. How we measure the return of the investments on the business impact. Okay, when it comes to measuring the return of the investments and the business impact, that's considered to be another essential for understanding the value of the Microsoft 365 Copilot. For that very reason, we take on the importance of the evaluation of the return of the investments. Okay, so in that particular regard, we can indeed benefit from leveraging according to the Microsoft 365 Copilot, which will help enhance both the productivity and efficiency by helping the organization to be able to assess the return of the investments. Then, of course, the key metrics to consider, yes, metrics are going to be saving a lot of time, okay? At the same time, helping to increase the accuracy, and of course, at the same time, reducing the cost, okay? And then all that can be quantified as the effectiveness of leveraging using the Microsoft 365 Copilot as well. And then that altogether is going to be very much creating a potential for the overall business impact from a perspective, from the positive perspective. Okay, that goes into the evaluation of the overall business impact, which is going to be very much improving the overall workflow, the employee satisfaction, and of course the cost efficiency resulting from the Copilot's implementation within the organization. Okay, class. So yes, with these particular slides, very much I wanted to make sure that we get into the Microsoft 365 Copilot, getting to know the Microsoft 365 Copilot at the very simplistic concepts. Okay, and then obviously getting into the leveraging the Copilot accordingly within the finance sector, okay, department, offices, and etc. Okay, and then that's why pretty much we've taken on the various perspectives and then all the way to some sort of the real world scenarios in order to ensure that what it takes for us in order to be able to complete certain daily routine which has to do with the finance aspect. Okay, so now I'm going to be going into the use cases. Okay, and I would be very much interested if you can share with me. Okay, are you using the Microsoft 365 Copilot? When I say Microsoft 365 Copilot, pretty much is understandable now after this particular discussion. I'm referring to the Copilot, which is part of the Microsoft 365 subscription within the organization, okay, which comes, of course, with an additional license on top of what we have for the Microsoft 365. For that very reason, use the chat box and just tell me yes or no, okay? That will help me then very much to go then align actually the presentation on the use cases, okay? And I'm going to be very much sharing with you actually the exercises that we're going to be very much conducting in this operation. Okay, so here's one. Okay, so we're looking forward to actually do what? We're going to be very much looking forward to run a summarization of the financial results by using the Microsoft 365 Copilot in the Microsoft Word. Well, we've seen when we've taken on those particular real world scenarios, well, we've seen how we can interact the Copilot from the various apps and services on the Microsoft 365 as well. So then from that very understanding, okay, we're going to be looking into the financial results, okay, summarizing financial results by leveraging the Microsoft 365 Copilot. Okay, so let me come in here. I haven't received no yeses, no nos, okay, no information whether you're using the Microsoft 365 Copilot. That doesn't matter, but at least just wanted to actually establish the communication since we can do that. Okay, Ahmed is telling me no. Okay, Tariq is telling me no as well. Okay, no problem. Okay, appreciate it very much your responses. Thank you so much in that. Okay, so let me then just very much coming into this particular part over here. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to be very much positioning myself into the Microsoft 365, okay? So that's going to be the case. So in here, okay? So I'm within the Microsoft 365, but Omar says yes. Awesome. Okay, excellent. Okay, so the premise, the link that I shared can be can benefit you, Omar. Thank you so much for sharing that information. Okay, so we're here, okay, within the Microsoft 365, okay, but on top of the 365 subscription, we do have the license of the Copilot as well. And then obviously, when I was referring to the Copilot chat, well, definitely we can navigate it to from the within the navigation bar. Okay, so on the left-hand side of this screen, I have the Copilot chat. Okay, if I click on the Copilot chat, obviously I'm going to be seeing something which is telling me the work and the web. Okay, now the work is going to be referencing only the data of the organization. Okay, but then if I select the web, then obviously this is going to be referencing the information on the public domain, such as the internet as well. Okay, so that's the case. If I'm going to be using, so let me just very shortly over here provide some of the explanation. Okay, in terms of the difference, so I go to the Teams. Okay. So I am over here within the Teams, okay? And then if we look on this particular navigation bar of the Teams, I'm encountering the Copilot as well, okay? So if I click in here, you'll see that I'm going to be getting the identical user interface, okay? Which tells me that Copilot chat can be accessed from Teams as well, okay? However, going back to Teams and going back to chat, okay? For instance, like I'm currently within this chat thread with my colleague, Eamon, okay? Then on the right-hand side, I have this Copilot here, okay? And if I click on this Copilot, then I'll see that this Copilot is Teams Copilot, but that is the chat Copilot. Now, the chat Copilot goes beyond Teams. It's like when I was providing that particular explanation early in the presentation, if I'm going to be running, for instance, like a prompt, which is going to be summarizing, I'm sorry, which is going to be summarizing the emails, the meetings, and the chats, obviously, the Copilot chat can go into the Outlook and then extract the data from the Outlook, which is all about the emails, and provide me a summary, okay? But then if I actually use the same prompt into this particular Copilot in here, this cannot go into the, actually cannot use it, the Microsoft Graph, in order to reach out to the Outlook and then bring me over the summary of the emails. No. This is mostly going to be dealing only with the Teams consideration, which is all about the meetings and of course about the chats as well within the channels. Okay, moving on forward, let's work on that particular, I'm sorry, let me close this one. Let's work on that particular use case, okay, of the financial data. Okay, so yes, I'm going to be very much looking forward to this particular exercise in here. Okay, so from the very exercise, which you can navigate it from that very link, okay, and then in that particular fashion, we can establish actually or align our the presentation with the steps in that particular document. Okay, at some point within the exercise, we need to then download a one particular file. Okay, so this is actually that particular financial document that we need you to download it. Okay, so I'm going to be downloading the file. Okay, yes, and very much I'm going to be, yes, what do we want to do with this particular file? Definitely we're going to be saving this one. Okay, so saving into the downloads. Okay, so then saving in here. Okay, and I'm going now to be navigating in here. Okay, so I'm going to be navigated into the OneDrive. So even from here. Okay, and then going into the My Files. I want to be organized. Okay, so then I'm going to be adding new folder. Okay, so this is going to be the M365 Copilot in Finance webinar. Okay, excellent. Create this one. Okay, and here it is, that one. Okay, and then here I'm going to be adding files upload. Okay, and then yes, added on 5-year financial results. So then open. Okay. Now that I'm actually within the OneDrive, remember that requirement is that the data of the organization is being located in OneDrive or in the SharePoint libraries in order to be able to reference by the Copilot. Okay, let's move on forward and open up this particular document in here. Okay, so this is the document. And when we look into the Word 365, okay, for all of you that are not using the Microsoft 365 Copilot, okay, well, you can see that initially, once we've actually came into the Word 365, automatically we are actually noticing here a summary, okay, a summary of this part over here, okay. But then when we look into the ribbon, on the right-hand side, we have the Copilot. So if I click on this one, the Copilot pane is going to be very much taking its place within that working area of the Microsoft Word 365. Okay, no problem. Let's just minimize this one over here. Okay, and then obviously we're going to be very much moving on forward. Okay, so when we actually move on forward, we would be very much actually then to then establish the interaction, okay, with this particular document over here. Okay, so we're going to be running some of the prompts. So we have the summarization, okay. So this is actually can be considered to be taken as one particular summarization, like as we see summary and of course insights as well, okay. And as we can see very much the Copilot is actually going over and generating all that part as well, okay. But I would be very much interested actually to then interact a little bit over here as well. Okay, so for me, there's no need to run a summary on this particular document because I'm already having it. Okay, if I can take that for granted, definitely. But if I'm checking on that particular summary, and of course, if that is not satisfying my requirement, okay, then obviously I can then go into this particular prompt. Okay, so that I may actually then very much run this prompt, include more details in the summary, okay? And then obviously pressing enter. So let's see what is then the Copilot going to be giving me in regard to this particular summary, okay? So as I can see, the Copilot is actually working, okay? And then obviously it's then enabling me to insert it, okay? And then definitely I can come into that particular document in here, okay? And then insert it. So let me just insert it on this particular one into the document, okay? So yes, so this is then that advanced summary that I was very much looking forward, okay? So yes, as we can see from my document, this is actually the summary, the advanced summary that this particular that the Copilot has actually performed. Okay, so moving on forward, I'll be very much interested to then obviously interact further, okay, because as we've seen it from those examples that were provided in the presentation, we actually do various iterations until we actually come up with the needed results. So I can then very much ask the Copilot, okay, to do what? Highlight the key financial challenges, okay, from that particular document. Let's see what is going to be telling me in this regard, okay. Okay, the reply, as we can notice, is sure, I can highlight the key financial challenges from the Adatum 5-year financial results documents. Okay, it's going into that particular highlight. Okay, excellent. Assuming that at some point, okay, within the document, I want to insert it here. Okay, and then yes, here's actually the highlight, okay, that I was very much interested to extract from this very document, actually from this table in here. Okay, yes. Moving on further, I want to then enhance more. Okay, so far as we can see, like scrolling up in here. Okay, okay, in blue colors, include more details in the summary. There used to be a work by Copilot, so I want to just actually a little bit of a more details within the summary. Okay, highlight the key financial challenges. Yes, and that was another explicit prompt. But what if I want to actually have a prompt which is detailed? Okay, I'm establishing the context on it. Okay, so based on the information in this document, how would you rate Adatum's financial performance over the past 5 years? Okay, and is it getting better or worse? Okay, so then this is considered to be a true data analysis. Okay, but translated from the perspective of the task that I'm actually performing, it's considered to be the finance analysis as well. Okay, let's execute this one. And let's see how the Copilot is going to be very much getting into this sort of the financial analysis. Okay, so yes, it's working on it. Okay, so far we see that is actually very much highlighting the very key or essential elements within the finance analysis, the revenues, the cost of goods sold based on the data. Okay, in here. Okay, so we have the revenue column in here, cost of goods sold, gross profit margin, and of course, etc. Okay, and then all that is very much expressed in this particular reporting here. Okay, and then yes, we have actually some statement at the very conclusion, okay, which obviously concludes that the overall Datum's financial performance has shown improvement, okay, so that in recent years, and that is very much what matters in this regard, okay. Yet again, I can insert that, okay, so yes, let me just do in that, okay, so insert it here, okay, and then further in this particular interaction with the Word 365 Copilot in regard to certain documents, okay? I can then run this very interesting prompt. Is there any area that's performing poorly that should be addressed? Okay, so I'm going more into the explicit prompt, okay, by pointing out now the weak points, identifying the weak points in the financial analysis. And then we want to pinpoint those particular areas so that we can improve further and with it actually have actually some sort of a far better overview of the finance within the organization. Yes, we're actually receiving it. We see that very much the point goes into the revenue fluctuations. Okay, so we did not have actually some sort of a consistency in there. Okay, that's why it's starting with the revenues initially, and then of course it goes to the other columns of the report. And then yet again, we have the option of inserting all these particular reports. Okay, yes, these are actually the challenges highlighted. Okay, excellent. So again, in here, we can insert it. And obviously, this is going to be very much telling us that when we look from what we've actually gotten, okay, indeed. Now, let's just review all of the work that the Copilot has done, okay? So we've had like in total four prompts, okay? So yes, we've actually then over here identified the weak points, okay? This was a financial report in order to assess the financial aspect of the organization, whether we're doing good or not. But of course, improvements in the recent years were received. Okay. And then obviously we've here highlighted, okay, highlighted some of the financial challenges. Okay. And then obviously in here did actually the same, provided some of the details, more details into the very summary, which was very much initially conducted by the co-pilot. Okay. So you see just four prompts and then wealth of the information and the valuable information indeed. Okay, so that this is just actually emphasizing only one particular element, which translates as a benefit from using accordingly the co-pilot within the Word in order to then go into that particular summary and of course financial analysis. Okay, or financial analysis. Okay, moving on forward. This is because we're working on the cloud. Okay, automatically has been saved. So we're going to be closing this one and then moving on forward with the very next use case, which is all about creating a financial analysis by using the Microsoft 365 Copilot in Word. Okay, so let me share initially the link with you and then move on forward. Okay, class, I'm sorry, because I'm coming from a training. Okay, valued audience, yes. Feel free to address any questions, okay? Any comments, okay? Or anything that is very much concerning you from the very perspective of the Microsoft 365 Copilot leveraged accordingly within the finance sector. Okay, create a financial analysis report by using the Copilot in Word 365. Okay, let's move forward and work on that particular one. Okay, so let me just open up that particular document. Okay, here we are. We're going to be yet again downloading a file. Okay, that's what we're aiming for. Okay, so I'm going to be coming in here. Okay, so this is that. Create a financial analysis report using the Microsoft 365 Copilot. And then yes, we're going to be downloading this file in here. Okay, so let's click on this one here. Okay, so I'm going to be downloading this file. So I'm having this table. Okay. Yes, very interesting. Okay, very interesting document. It contains tables, it contains charts as well. So download the file. Okay, it was downloaded already. And then yes, navigating that one. Okay, it is in here, downloads. Okay, and then closing this one so I can go to the OneDrive and then bring it over to here. Okay, so add, and then the files upload, and then coming to the Fabricam Q1 marketing campaign data. Let's do that. Okay, excellent. Okay, moving on forward from the very exercise in here. Okay, so then we're going to be very much now looking forward to open a blank document. Okay, so let's close this and let's come in here. Okay, so here then I'm going to be navigating to the App Launcher, Word, blank document. In this blank document, what I'm going to be doing is actually then running what? Running actually one particular prompt. Okay, so the prompt is going to be the following. Okay, so you see now this is actually that particular, because we've been opening a document previously, and then obviously we've seen the summary, but when we click the period document, okay, so I'm referring to the previous document, Additum 5-year analysis, okay, but in this time we have the Copilot in here, okay, which we usually use it for drafting, and of course we have the Copilot in here as we've seen it earlier. Okay, so in here then going to be placing that prompt. Okay, so I'm the director of the Finance for Fabricam. Please create the Q1 marketing campaign analysis report based on the attached file. So until this point, okay, I'm setting a context, okay, and then on the prompt, and then obviously I'm asking the Copilot to reference a file. The files should be within the OneDrive or the SharePoint, okay? So it's a test file, which provides data on our Q1 marketing, okay, first quarter marketing campaigns. Include the following sections in the report: executive summary, data analysis, and recommendations. Recently, Copilot is adding suggestions. So if I want to add this, ensure that the tone is professional and concise, all I need to do is actually add a tab. So let me just add tab in this regard, and that becomes part of my prompt. Okay. Now, further is actually adding more of a suggestion, but it's me, the pilot, which is then assessing. So the user in the role of a pilot going to be assessing whether these particular suggestions are needed or not. Okay. But let's go back to that particular initial reference of the file. Okay. Add the content from here. Okay. So I'm going to be clicking on this part in here, and then obviously navigating to the browse files from the cloud. So if I click on this part in here, then I go to the file, my files, okay? And then obviously the Microsoft 365 Copilot in Finance webinar. I come here, okay? And then here's that particular document that I want to attach it, okay? So I'm going to be referencing to that one, attach. And then you're going to be noticing that that particular file has been attached there. Okay, let me just delete this one. Okay, why? Because I want to do the forward slash. If I do the forward slash, okay, then I can do what? I can go to the OneDrive, okay, and come here, okay, to this part in here, okay. So for instance, like this one, okay, and then this is actually for sharing. Okay, copy link, copy link. I can copy the link. Okay, link copied. Then I can come here to this document, and then here I can do what? I can paste paste that particular link. You see, once I pasted the link, then shortly in terms of the seconds, the link was actually then converted to the naming, the action naming. And the file is then automatically attached down there. So that tells that you can reference the file by locating the file within the OneDrive, as in our scenario, or you can then just go to that particular file, whether in SharePoint or OneDrive, and then pick up the link, actually the path. Where's that file located? Still web technology. And then obviously me coming here and then paste it in here. Okay, let's hit generate. Let's hit generate and see what we're going to be getting from this particular prompt. Yes, it's going to be creating the draft. Okay, so yes, let's review what we have received from the Copilot in regard to that particular document. Okay, yes, Fabricam Q1 marketing campaign analysis report, executive summary, a section, data analysis, okay, which then goes into the subsections, okay, and recommendations, yet again into the subsections, and with it concludes. Okay, I can keep it, I can regenerate, I can discard it, okay, or I can do modifications over here. And we are going to be very much interested to actually do some sort of a modifications in here, okay? So we want to do what? We want to then obviously reformat the executive summary, okay? So let's actually do this one. Okay, reformat the executive summary into we can format that one into the, okay, here is the prompt. Okay, so we can format it into the table or bulleted list. Okay, let's see if we can. So let me just scroll up. I'm asking the Copilot to reformat this part to make a table. Okay, let's make it a table in there. So let's do that. Okay, so take out that one table. And of course, take the bracket actually, and then delete that. So table format. Let's see what the Copilot will do in this regard. Okay, yes, executive summary is taking the shape of a table. Okay, but now, if you're noticing, we have two of two over here. Okay, if I go on the previous draft, then I'll have this draft. Okay, if I go on the previous one, and of course I'm having this one. Okay, what if I want? Okay, so let's use the same one, but let's make it bulleted list. Okay, so indeed, as we can see, it's very easily to interact with Copilot based on what we've said, the NLP, natural language processing. Yes, here's actually the premise, the summary, the executive summary provided in the bulleted list. Okay, yes. Further, we want to then conduct some more analysis into the document. Okay, so we want to ask for more. Please convert the information for each metric in the data analysis section into the table format. Let's see what we're going to be getting in here. Okay, here's actually all of the data analysis to the table format. So let's go to the very first initial draft. Okay, and then let's see the section of a data analysis. So this is that section of the data analysis, okay, which on draft 4 was actually converted into a table, okay. So that was in the draft 4 converted in as a table. That's one here. Excellent. Okay, and then obviously another thing is that I want. Okay, so let me just generate in here. Okay, so we want what? We want that recommendation section displaying the items in the order of importance, starting with the most important. Okay, and then yes, here we have it. Enhanced performance monitoring, and then goes all the way down to the experiment with the new channels. Okay, so yes, based on what we've been looking for. Okay, so various prompts so far, and then actually resulted with the 5 drafts of that initial document. And then yes, if we are very much satisfied with any of a particular draft, okay, then definitely we're going to be keeping it. If not, discarding it. If we want additional modifications, or if we want the entire modification, so regenerate. And if I do regenerate over here, I'm going to be receiving yet again another. Okay, so I'm going to be receiving yet another draft over here. Okay, and then by the very end, it's all about which one I'm actually interested. But the initial prompt was all about this prompt over here. Okay, so we've started actually from this very first prompt. Okay, so that was actually the case in there. So I'm going actually to the very first one. Okay, so the initial one. So this one here, I think that this satisfies my requirements. And as such, pretty much I'm going to be keeping this one. Okay, and when I keep, obviously I have this Fabricam Q1 marketing campaign analysis report. Okay, excellent. Moving on forward, we would be very much looking forward to do another, okay, use case. This time, okay, let me just close this. And this one here. Okay, and this one here. Yeah, this one here from OneDrive. And now I'm going to be very much looking forward to do what? Actually run the exercise 3, which is all about creating a presentation, a sales presentation. Okay, so let's run this one. Okay, so creating a sales presentation using the Microsoft 365 Copilot in the PowerPoint. Okay, let's do that. So let me initially bring over that particular file. Okay. So coming in here. Okay, so yes, let's go to the very exercise. Okay, in here, we need to download. So we're going to be downloading this market trend report protein shake. Okay, yeah, because I think I have that one downloaded. So let me just upload it. Okay, add new. Okay, files upload. Okay, so let me just check in here, protein shake. Okay, this one here. Okay, so this is that market trend report protein shake, open. Okay, excellent. Now, once we actually do that one, we're going to be very much navigated to the PowerPoint. Okay, so in that case, from here, then I'm going to be going to the app launcher in PowerPoint. Okay, blank presentation. When we actually come into the PowerPoint, okay, well, yet again, we are going to be noticing the availability of the Copilot. Okay, we have the Copilot in a similar format as we've had it within the Microsoft Word, okay, such as in this case, but yet again, we have the Copilot within the ribbon as well. Okay, so when we click on this one, in similar fashion like in Microsoft Word, it's going to be actually opening the Copilot pane on the right-hand side of a screen of the working area. But then when I come in this part in here, if I click it, then obviously it's going to be very much giving me the context menu or that drop-down list of the create a presentation option, of the create a presentation with file, add a slide, or ask Copilot. We're going to be creating a presentation with file. Okay, so let's click on this one, create a presentation with file. but we have it here as well. Okay, so here we can interact it from here, but we can interact it from here. Let's do it from here. Okay, Copilot is actually opening this particular one. Okay, so I can search it whether I have that particular document in here. Okay, and this usually gives me what? The most recent used files, the most recent used files. Okay, I'm not actually finding it there. Then let me just navigate it. Okay, by going up here, clicking that one, attach cloud files. When I click on the attached cloud files, it should redirect me to the OneDrive. Okay, and then coming in here, I can go to the My Files. Okay, and then I can go to the Microsoft 365 Copilot in Finance webinar. Okay, and then over here, market trend report Procter and Shake. Let's pick up this one here, and then select. Okay, so I'm creating a presentation from a file. Okay, so that tells me that I'm referencing a file. Okay, and then all I need to do is moving on forward. Since I'm actually having the file in here, okay, let me generate it or send it from here. Okay, let's see what is going to be very much happening over here. Okay, so there's some outline created. Okay, so let's review the outline. Okay, so it tells me the market trend report, counter support train plus, social media sensation, the viral reel, the key factor behind the hype, impacts on the market position, and of course then conclusion. Okay, super. Let me generate the slides. Let me generate the slides. Okay. Slides are being generated. We see the thumbnails within this particular pop-up window. Okay, here we go. Well, these are actually the slides, okay, that the Copilot has actually generated for me. No problem. Let me go to view. And of course, let me go to the normal. Okay, so all that is the very presentation that was created from that very document. Okay, a document in here. So this document here, let's open up this document to just look at it. Okay, so then this is actually the document, a very simple document. Okay, so market trend report complex of protein plus, and then when we scroll down this document, it's purely some text. Now, this text was converted into this very enhanced and neaty and good looking presentation. Okay, no problem. Let's position ourselves into the slide number one. Okay, what else? I want, okay, let me just actually over here. Well, I can see that I'm having actually some speaker notes here. Okay, but what if I want to ensure that I want to have speaker notes to each and a particular slide, because I'm seeing that I don't have the speaker notes in here. I just have actually some sort of a reference, okay, or where this particular file is actually located. Okay, no problem. So then for that very reason, I'm going to be going to home. Okay, and then obviously I can come here and hit Ask Copilot. But for that very reason, I come here and then click on this particular, and then it will display the Copilot pane. I'm going to be, okay, very much doing what? Add speaker notes to all slides, or I'll say to each slide. Okay, to each slide in a presentation. Okay, yes. So I want to have actually the speaker notes. Okay, let's see what the Copilot is doing in this regard. Okay, I'm having actually the reply in here. it tells me that the Copilot has added the speaker notes to all the slides. Okay, let's review all of the slides in order to actually see whether we have the speaker notes. Okay, so in here, I have the speaker notes, but that was initially having speaker notes actually from the very beginning. So then generated by the Copilot, I have the slides in here. Okay, pardon, the speaker notes. And that tells me that very much I'm having actually all of the speaker notes in all of the slides, even if I go at the very end over here. Okay, awesome. What if I want to actually then add something else? Okay, what about if I want to add a Q&A slide? Okay, so for that very reason, I need to be positioned at the very end. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to be selecting the slide number 20. Okay, and then in here, okay, so it's going down. So I'm going to be then bringing over that particular prompt in here and add a slide for a question and answer session. Okay, add the slide for a question and answer session. Let's just run this one. Okay, I'm not telling after which slide. I'm just saying that add a slide for a question and answer Q&A session. Let's see where that slide is going to be added. Okay, so let me see in here. Yes, I have the question and answer session right after the slide number 20. So pretty much, are you noticing that by being positioned at the very slide, and of course that was a very generic prompt because it was not explicitly telling the Copilot where to actually position that particular Q&A. But then obviously, naturally, from the very position, the very next slide was actually thought by the Microsoft 365 Copilot that should be the case of where we can add that particular slide. Okay, super. Now, let's see something more specific. Okay, so when we say more specific, we want to have this particular prompt. Okay, so bring it over to here. In the speaker notes of the Q&A slide that you just created, add a list of possible questions that may be asked regarding this presentation. Okay, so you see, I'm not pointing to the Q&A slide on purpose. I'm pointing to the slide 19 because I want to make sure whether the Copilot is going to be capable of identifying this slide. Okay, a question and answer session. So let me just run this one. And then on speaker notes, we're going to be having some of the questions. It tells me it might take a while. Meanwhile, I can help you with something else. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's navigate it there. I've added speaker notes to this slide. So if I go to the Q&A, well, here I'm not seeing the questions. So I'm actually seeing over here. Okay, I did that one on purpose to tell that if we're going to be doing that part, okay? So then if we have been selected slide 19, but we have not specifically told the Copilot that in the speaker notes of the Q&A slide that you just created in the bracket slide number 20, okay, or 21, then in that case, Copilot will actually then a little bit act not maybe adequately, okay? So let's run the same one in here, okay, which is the last one, okay, and then let's see the reaction in this case. Okay, it tells me here, okay, you see, I understand that you would like to add a list of possible questions to the speaker notes of the Q&A slide. However, I cannot make changes to your presentations directly. Okay, now you see that I was actually addressing the same identical prompt. It worked in here. This time it's not working. Let me try to change the tone. Okay, so please, I'll add here, please, could you add a list. Okay, could you add a list? Okay, the list of the possible questions that may be asked regarding this presentation and the speaker notes of the Q&A, not Q&A. Of course, I'm going to be changing this one, slide 21. Thank you. Let's see how it is going to be behaving now. Oh, it's actually, you see, very much in a similar fashion. So in that case, then, what we can do is that we can then just copy this part. Okay. So copy that and then make sure that we're bringing it over here. Okay, no problem. Let's just move on forward. We're going to be very much now looking forward. Okay, here's another prompt. So this time we go right at the top. Okay, and then we're going to be saying that create a list of 10 questions about this presentation that might be asked by the viewers. For each question, provide a suggested answer. Okay, so when we're going to be presenting this particular presentation, of course, we want to establish here some predictions, like we said, some predictions into the financial analysis. Okay, and that is going to be very much the questions in regard to the presentation, but of course, we want to have also the answers. And here's actually the list of the 10 questions. Okay, we can call it frequently asked questions in regard to this presentation. Okay. And then, yes, have all that. Okay, so let's copy that in order to have it. This can be actually very much stored within the Word document, but we're going to be very much saving it over here. Okay, so let's do it here because this is the speaker notes. Okay, so yes, that would be very much the situation, but we want to make sure that we're saving this one with a appropriate name, because in this case is the presentation 2. So I'm going to be adding this name in there. Okay, so you see the column is not supported. Okay, market trend report for Ontoso Protein Plus, and then I'll go here because I need to specify my folder. Okay, and move it here. Okay, excellent. I'm going to be closing now this one because this is automatically saved in the cloud. Yes, closing that. Closing this one as well. And then obviously closing this too. Okay, moving on forward. Yeah, we've been discussing financial analysis, but so far we have not seen a use case in Excel. Let's work out a use case in Excel. Okay, so here we are with the use case number 4. Okay, analyzing a financial spreadsheet using the Microsoft 365 Copilot in Excel. Okay, let's do that. Okay. So here. Okay, here we are. So analyze a financial spreadsheet using the Microsoft 365 Copilot in Excel. Okay. We're going to be very much working with the Fabricam Q1 marketing campaigns. Okay. We need to download this file, so we're going to be doing that. This is that file. Okay. So download the file. Download it. Okay. Let's go to the OneDrive. Okay, so let's bring the file in here and then open the file from within the OneDrive. Okay, so here we're going to be adding files upload. Okay, so you see that I'm having in more than one instance, but I would be very much interested to actually go down and search it. Okay, yeah, this one. So then open. Let's open from here, from within the Excel 365, and that's the file. Now, if you're noticing class in here, part of the valued audience, okay, if you're noticing in here is that whenever I approach and hover, okay, with the cursor on top of the table, then I'm receiving this icon of the Copilot. If I click in there, get deeper analysis results, suggest a formula column, suggest conditional formatting, summarize using pivot table or charts, teach me something about Excel, ask Copilot, hide until I reopen this document. Okay, I click outside and that's still remaining there. But if I come in here, obviously, and click it, I'll see that the Copilot is giving me the pen, okay, within this particular, okay, let me close this, okay, and then yes, coming here. Okay, so now I'm going to be doing what? I'm going to be running this first prompt, creating a pivot table. Okay, so coming in here, and then from here, if you're looking at the content which is currently within that particular text box, okay, the prompt, it says search for content, ask a questions, or tell me what you'd like to do with H1, A1, H13. And A1, H13, as we know, is actually the entire table. Okay, so let's address the prompt, create a pivot table to analyze the total revenue generated by each campaign type. Let's run it. Yes, there's some work in progress. And here it is. The Copilot tells me that it analyzed the data, A1, A13, and here's what the Copilot found, this one. Okay, it tells me to add to a new sheet. We're going to be adding it to a new sheet. Let's go and add it to a new sheet. Okay, and then here it is. On the sheet 2, we have actually that particular pivot table. Okay, pivot table of the very much the campaign type, and of course the sum of our revenues. Okay, going back to the sheet 1, I want to be able to do what? Okay, to actually then run another prompt, which prompt is asking to create a chart, actually to visualize the data. And here's actually the actual prompt. In sheet 2, you created the pivot table to analyze the total revenue generated by each campaign type. Create a chart to visualize this data. Okay, so this is the sheet 2. But class, you're seeing that we're not positioned it in sheet 2, but of course in sheet 1. Why? Because it is the actual communication that we've established from the very sheet in the workbook in Microsoft Excel. And then that's why we're actually coming to the sheet 1 in order to be able to continue with the interaction with Copilot. So let's run this one and let's see what is going to be pretty much providing us. Okay, yes, did that particular chart, okay, and then it gives us the button in order to be able to insert it. So let's go and add it as a new sheet. Okay, that's the sheet 3, and then now let's compare it. Sheet 2 is only the table, okay, that pivot table, but here we have also like the visualization, okay, the graph itself. Super. Moving on forward, and now we are very much interested to do what? Actually ask the Copilot to run some calculation. Okay, because this is Excel, and of course we have the capabilities in this application. So let's bring over the prompt in here Okay, and then ask the Copilot to calculate the return of investments for each campaign. Now, each campaign, well, very much we have the campaign type in here, okay? Campaign name and campaign owner, okay? Let's run this prompt. You see, while it is analyzing, you see the coloring, how it is actually changing within the entire table, okay? So the coloring is indeed, okay, quite interesting. It didn't add that particular column in here. Okay, it just told me that it can actually provided me the formula. But I'm having here, can you add the ROI calculation to a new sheet? Okay, so let's try out this one. Okay, so we will click on this part in here. Okay, and then ROI calculations to a new sheet. It tells me that it cannot add the ROI calculations into, but it can provide me the formula. Okay, we're going to be copying the formula and we're going to be coming in here. Okay, we're going to be identifying this one as ROI. Okay, you see the formatting is of the same format. And then on the very first cell in here, we're going to be entering the formula. Okay, so then we are going to be executing that. Okay, and then we see all that is very much being filled automatically. Okay, so yes, moving on forward. Okay, we have another prompt. Okay, pay attention now to this very prompt. Okay, earlier we've said not that one because that was suggested one. Calculate the ROI for each campaign. We said like that. But this time we're saying calculate and display the ROI for each campaign. Let's see how it's going to be behaving in this regard. Okay. Okay, it tells that the ROI has already been calculated and displayed. Okay. Let's just go back in here. Okay. Taking out the ROI from there. Hopefully. Okay. So yes, like this. Okay. And delete the column. Okay. And now let's rerun again the same. Okay, this time the situation is different. When we hover, you see that I'm not inserting, I'm just hovering, approaching the cursor over the button. Then obviously I'm having that particular column in there indicating that that's the ROI. So if we click on insert column, the ROI is going to be added. Now let's compare. And then this is when we get actually that very explanation into the prompt itself. It says here, calculate and display. On this prompt here, it's just, can you calculate the ROI for each campaign. Okay. Calculate and display makes the difference. In this case, it was providing us formulas. In the very next one, it was adding that particular column in there. Okay. So that's very important to know and emphasize that it depends a lot from the very prompt, so we can then extract the best out of the Copilot. Moving on forward, the very next prompt is that changed. So adding the ROI column looks very good. However, I would like to do two more things dealing with ROI. First, calculate the ROI for each campaign type. Second, display a graph of the ROI for each campaign type. Let's see, calculations and displaying it. Okay, for each campaign type, and we have the campaign type in here. Yes, here we have, okay, the visualization of what we have been requesting, and adding to a new sheet. Adding to a new sheet, and this is actually the sheet 4. We have the table, and of course, we have the chart as well. Okay, moving on further, we are going to be running an additional prompt in here, okay? And then create a chart that shows which campaign was most effective at engaging the users, okay? So here it is. Now, if I go to the sheet 1, okay, users, yeah, these are the targeted users, engaged users, and we see some big values in there. Let's see how the data is going to be interpreted, okay? But you see, it was not actually giving me over here, okay? In fact, it's giving me the information, but not expected one. Let me try run that prompt here again. It's analyzing, yes. And here it is. Now, the reason you might have actually very much noticed that the reason that I didn't get this one earlier is that I was positioning in sheet 4. Okay, so then this is a requirement, okay, that every time that we are actually implementing something, we need to come back to the sheet 1, add to the new sheet. Okay, let's see in here. So this is actually that value 5,418. And then this is actually the product review 5,418. And going to the sheet 1, well, pretty much this is that case, 5,418 as well. Okay, moving on forward, another prompt in order to do this sort of the analysis. That type of chart isn't what I was looking for. Please create a chart that shows the relationship between the total users targeted and total users engaged. So this is not the chart that we wanted, but obviously based on the prompt that we've explained here, we want to have that type of a chart. Let's see what sort of a chart we're going to be receiving. Yes, outliers, okay? So the scatters in here, outliers, let's add it. But now you see, we don't have it here, add to a new sheet, but we just have it add to a sheet, okay? So let's click it. And then that is going to be very much adding in here. But then at the same time, while this is highlighted, obviously has targeted these two columns, G and H. Okay, moving on forward. We have this following prompt in this data analysis. Instead of adding the chart to sheet 1, can you please move it to a new sheet? Okay, let's go and ask that. Whether Copilot can move it to a new sheet. I can't help with this. Okay, quite interesting. To move the chart to a new sheet, follow these steps. Okay, so yes, yeah, even there might be cases when the Copilot can actually not perform certain operations. Okay, we're not going to be bothering the Copilot. Okay, further analysis. Okay, that was not an analysis. That was actually some sort of the action. Okay, into the very instruction. But now we're going to be identifying the top performing campaigns based on revenue generated. Okay, so campaign type, campaign name, campaign owner, and revenues. Okay, we have some values, 12,423, 16,342. Okay, let's see how they are going to be very much presented in here. Okay, well, this time we see that that obviously we have been provided the pretty much the steps how to do it, but not the actual work on it. Okay, so let's just click outside of this particular chart. Okay, and then let's try once again. Let's try once again actually doing that particular prompt. Analyzing. Okay. Yes. You see, because we've been pointing to a chart, okay, then obviously that was not the case. But this time we have it. So add to a new sheet. Okay, here it is. Revenue by campaign name. Okay, so that was the case. Then we are going to be very much moving on forward and then going into the sheet one. Okay, and then we want to have something else. Okay, so yet again, I'm actually clicking outside of a table and the chart, and then show a suggestion for a formula column. Let's see what results we're going to be very much receiving in here. Okay. Okay, so this is the engagement rate. Okay, and of course, yes, we're inserting that one. So this is the actually the that particular suggestions for the formula column. Okay, excellent. So yes, with this particular one, we're actually closing on this particular example, and then moving on to the variant one. Of course, yeah, we have a couple more minutes. Okay, exercise number 5. So let me just close these. Okay, and then coming in here, sharing it with you. Yes, Ahmed, within the chat box is the link to the exercise number 4. Were you able to locate it? I can reshare it, no problem, but it's actually above your prompt, okay? Yes, yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Ahmed. Thank you very much for understanding. Okay, exercise 5, draft an email to the insurance company using the Microsoft 365 Copilot in Outlook. Okay, excellent. Let's do that. Very interesting use case, this one as well. Okay, super. Coming in here. Yes, let's draft an email to the insurance company using the Microsoft 365 Copilot. Okay. So in this one, okay, let me just check initially. Okay, if we are no, okay, no. So we're going to be mostly using the prompts. Okay, now let's go to the email. Okay, so App Launcher, Outlook. So like we see it here, okay, on the far right hand side, we have the Copilot. Okay, if I click on this caret in here, it's going to be giving me the chat, the draft, and the settings. So if I do chat, obviously that's the Copilot. Okay, so I'm closing in this one. And then I'm going for the new email. Okay, and then here then, I'm going to be doing what? Drafting. Okay, so I go again to the Copilot. And then this time I'm having the coaching as well. We're going to be using the coaching. Okay, so chat, draft. Let me go with the draft. Okay, so I'm going to be doing what? I'm going to be coming in here. Okay, and then I'm going to be using this one, this prompt. Okay, very interesting is that within this part in here, what do you want this email to say? I'm going to be pasting the prompt. And then obviously here, okay, if I miss that part, I'm the Chief Finance Officer for Northwind Traders. Draft an email to our insurance carrier, Homogeneous Insurance, expressing my concern for the level of increases in our company health insurance premiums for the coming year. Request a meeting with the insurance carrier's team to discuss the proposed increases and explore alternative options. Let's generate this one. Okay. Yes, so this is the draft. Okay, from the very prompt, this is what the Copilot in Outlook has actually generated. Let me scroll down a bit. Okay, I can keep it. I can discard it. I can retry. Let me retry. Okay, you're noticing that I'm having now 2 of 2. The first draft, the second draft. Okay, I can do what? I can make it shorter. It seems like this is long. let me make it shorter. So I can do shorter. Or it's very short, so I want it to be a bit longer. But now we've actually managed to have 4 drafts. Okay. Further, change the tone. It is direct. I want to have it direct. Let's go with direct. Okay. I want to have the tone, okay, casual. So 6. Then I have to have the tone formal. Or pay attention. I want to have the tone in like a poem. Okay, very interesting, huh? Very impressive. Yes, indeed. Okay, quite interesting. Yes, we've been actually testing all that. Now, let's say that I want to go, okay, to a particular, like this one, 7. Okay, let me stop in here. I'm going to be keeping it. Okay, excellent. So, in here then, I'm going to be doing what? Going to Copilot and coaching. Let's see what's the benefit of coaching. Let's click on coaching. Yes. The coaching gives me suggestions which I can apply. I can dismiss or I can retry. So some other suggestions, okay? It tells me at the level of the tone, maintain professional empathic. At the reader's sentiment, acknowledge their cooperation positively. Clarity, improve the details and specifics. And it goes like that, okay? So then I will say, apply all suggestions. Okay, excellent. And then obviously here, replace, because up here, okay, this is the original email, and this is now with the suggestions from the coaching of the Copilot. So then I will say, insert below. That doesn't make a sense because 2 times actually. Replace it, replace it. Okay, and then when replacing, this is what I'm actually getting over here. Okay, so I'll go over here. Okay, this one here. Coming in here. Okay, and then, okay, so I will say here an email to our insurance company using M365 Copilot. Okay, and then obviously here I will just specify the mail address and send it. And then obviously that's the very case of this particular exercise as well. Okay, class, we're almost hitting the end of this particular webinar. Okay, before we close, let me share something with you. Okay, so I'm having the achievement code, and of course, I'm having the evaluation form as well. Okay, so in the chat box, you have the achievement code and of course the feedback form. Okay, also like on the very screen, okay, so in here, pardon, yes to the conclusion. Okay, so yes, you have it as the QR codes as well. Okay, the achievement code on the left-hand side, the training feedback on the right-hand side. Okay, please kindly use the Microsoft personal account. Okay, if you want to showcase the accomplishment of this particular webinar within the Microsoft Learn, then use accordingly that particular link. Okay, which is actually stating as achievement code link, and then use it accordingly. But use the Microsoft personal account, okay? Outlook.com, and of course then the MSN.com, Live.com, okay, or Hotmail.com, okay? And then on the feedback form, very much you can then use it the personal account as well and provide actually your feedback. With your honest feedbacks, we can then indeed improve our entire work further. And then definitely, like we've said with the Microsoft 365, boosting the productivity and aiming in order to gain that competitive advantage on the market that we are operating, because we strive to be a leader in providing the trainings and with it, sharing of the knowledge through the webinars as well. Okay, class, I'd like to thank you very much. I hope that you've enjoyed this webinar, and I hope that whatever we've shared over here, from the perspective of using, Ahmed, thank you so much indeed for your kind words. Okay, and to everyone as well. Okay, so whatever we've shared over here from the perspective of leveraging accordingly the Microsoft 365 Copilot in finance department, offices, segments within the industry, indeed proved to be very valuable and, of course, unique information for you guys. Okay, yes, Omar, thank you so much as well. Appreciate it. Thank you indeed. Okay. And the guys, I wish that anytime soon your organizations are going to be embracing the Microsoft Copilot, so then you yourself can benefit from using the Copilot within your workplace, and with it then boost the productivity. Of course, boost your own productivity, but then altogether actually help your organization to move forward, like we've said, gaining that particular momentum of the competitive advantage. Okay. So yes, once again, a big thank you goes to all of you that participated and spent these 2 hours with me in running this particular very valuable webinar in regard to the Microsoft 365 Copilot in Finance. So peace and blessings to you and your families. Okay, I wish you excellent health, even on behalf of my company, Technology. Excellent health and much of a success. And God willing, looking forward to see you again on the upcoming webinars. Yes, but don't forget, once again, to benefit from getting the achievement code, and very much that is going to be enriching your Microsoft profile, Microsoft Learn profile, with actually multiple badges, which you can showcase it into the social networking. But then also, like I said, provide to us some honest and decent feedback, which will help us improve further in this process of providing trainings and sharing of the knowledge. So once again, peace and blessings, and thank you very much.